Hi everyone, welcome back. I know last week, week two, was a little bit crazy and unexpected for the majority of us because we did not anticipate having that week off for the hurricanes of Marco and Laura. If you were personally affected by either one of those hurricanes, please reach out, send me an email, let me know, set up an appointment so we can discuss your situation and what's going on um, for you as a student this semester, um, just if you were personally affected by either one of the hurricanes. Moving on, we do still need to kind of get back on track. We need to move in that direction. And so, what you're going to see for the assignments this week, which is week three, is that we're supposed to be putting forward a rough draft of your first essay, which is going to be a review. Now, that is problematic for a couple of reasons. The first of which being that we did not have class last week, and the university sent out emails saying that instructors and faculty could not assign things to you. We could not try and make assignments that you had to turn in. So you would have been working on that essay, but unfortunately we were not able to have either the lectures that were necessary, nor were we able to kind of move forward with some in-class examples and to do some work in class. So we're going to be readjusting a little bit, but what I'd like to do right now is I'd like us to just kind of shift it by one class period. So instead of having that rough draft for us to discuss in class on Monday and Tuesday, what I want us to do is I want us to move it over slightly to Wednesday and Thursday, which means that you're going to have to come up with a draft of a review to show to classmates and to have peer review by Wednesday of this week. So if that seems like a challenge to you, I would say, well, you were supposed to ground yourself in the readings, which would be chapter 3 from Cross Currents, where you were going to read up on reviews. If you've not done that already, you want to get a hold of the textbook Cross Currents, and you want to look over chapter 3, where we talk about reviews, and we have some examples of reviews, and move you through that material pretty quickly. Now, Cross Currents, I say we're going to move you through it quickly with Cross Currents. One of the things that I find really beneficial about the textbook is that it really cuts to some working examples pretty quickly. It gives you the outline at the start of the chapter, and then it gives you those examples so that you can kind of see the application of the idea pretty quickly. So if you haven't done it already, I want you to read chapter 3 in Cross Currents, and specifically I want you to pay attention to page 42 that looks just like this, okay? Where you have two examples of outlines of how to write a review. Now both of those examples are correct. Both of them work. It really just depends on your writing style, what works for you, how you order your thoughts, and both structures work well. So if you see one of the structures and you say, I think that would work better for me, great. I'm down for either one. They both work. But I do want to kind of walk you through what a review is to me. Although I am a substitute for this class and Miss Lawrence should be returning in the next 2 weeks, I want us to at least have this assignment done well and under our belt so that we can move forward and that we can anticipate what the next couple of assignments are going to be. Now, I've taught 101 a couple of times, and here's what I say about the review, is that a review is always predicated upon prior knowledge. There is a way of doing reviews that's just an opinion where you come at it with fresh eyes and you say, I like it or I didn't like it, and here's why I liked it or why I didn't like it. And historically, those have always proven to be really weak essays. They don't work well because it's based so heavily on your subjective experience. You're not really doing a lot of research for it. You're just kind of reading or watching a film, watching a TV show superficially. So I like us to kind of move past it, and this is how I talk about a review, is that you have to have some kind of prior knowledge before you get to the review. And one of the examples that you would look at is on page 43, where they start reviewing one of the 50 Shades of Grey films. Now, I'm not going to ask who among you has seen that film, but I will point out that the review presupposes that you're already familiar with other entries in the work. So it talks about 50 Shades Darker, which is one of the sequels, and so it presupposes that you are already familiar with the characters, with the overall storyline, with how they work. And if you don't, well, you're still able to read it, but you're not able to read it as well as someone who is familiar with the text. So what I might do when I approach a review is I want to know a little bit about the genre. I want to know a little bit about the history of the material. I don't want you to just say, I liked it or I didn't like it, because those kind of reviews, they don't work. They don't work well. That's just so subjective, it's so opinionated, and it doesn't leave room for the research, the necessary work that you have to execute the assignment well. So, some basic bones on all of the assignments for freshman English classes. You have to hit at least 4 pages. Not 3.5, not 3 9/10. You need to be hitting at least 4 pages of the essay itself. So this is before you even get to a works cited page. Next, you have to have at least 4 pieces of research. You have to have scholarly, academic, professional, qualified research. Not just articles that you found on Google, not just opinion pieces, but stuff that has been vetted by people in the field, in a particular industry, who are able to make informed and educated, perhaps even professional or academic comments on the nature of the subject. Now that might seem like big words to you, but basically it means I'm not an expert in makeup. So what business do I have reviewing a makeup product? I'm not an expert in surgery. So if I were to write a review on some new medical technology for surgeons, what does it matter what I have to say? I'm not in the field, I'm not an expert, I'm not going to use it. What does it matter? You have to have some kind of vested interest in your review, meaning that you have to have watched the movie, you have to have seen the TV show, you have to know a little bit about the genre and where it fits. In previous semesters, and let me use this as an example, in previous semesters when I have assigned a review, what I have done is I have assigned a review of an album. And the last one that I assigned, and this would have been about a year ago, which would have been the last time that I taught 101, I assigned an album by the band Pink Floyd, which was a very popular rock band, perhaps progressive rock you might call them, in the 70s into the early 80s. And if you've ever heard of Pink Floyd, you know that they released a couple of really popular albums when it comes to rock. They're considered a legendary rock band. But if you are to review the album, which is what I have assigned, this presupposes a lot of information. It presupposes that you would have actually listened to it. It presupposes that you are able to locate Pink Floyd as a rock band and where they fit in the history of rock and the history of music. It presupposes that you will be familiar with band members and some of the lyrics. So, for example, one of their albums is very much a concept album. It has a lot of synthesizers, it has a lot of instrumentals, and it's not so heavy on the lyrics. So how do you review an album if you don't have lyrics? You don't have any text to review. Well, at that point, your review just becomes, I liked the sound or I didn't like the sound. It's something that I would listen to or it's not something I would listen to. And would that work for the assignment? It might work for like one of your claims, one of your points. It won't work over the long haul because you don't have enough there to write a review. Why? Because if you're not familiar with the band, you're not going to have a lot of stuff to say. You're going to run out of material pretty quickly, and you will not be able to make your 4 pages. You won't even know where to look because it's so foreign to you. So what I do is I assigned the album, and this is one of your 4 required sources. What I tell all my students is that 4 is the floor. You have to have 4 pages of the essay. And this is before the Works Cited page. And you have to have at least 4 sources on your Works Cited page. So that's a total of 5 pages with 4 scholarly, qualified, professional, academic, invested, quality sources, not just stuff that you find on Google. And you have to show evidence that you were able to speak in an informed way. Well, how do I get my students to speak on an album that they probably haven't listened to? I think the last time that I assigned that review of the name of the album is Wish You Were Here. Most of the students, they may have heard of Pink Floyd, but they heard of other albums such as The Wall. They didn't really hear about this one. It's a lesser known album. And again, this is more of a concept album. It's more about the sound. It's more about the emotions that can be evoked than it is about the lyrics. So how do you review an album if there aren't lyrics, if there aren't things that you can attach to and unpack and understand? Well, then you have to know a lot about the sound. You have to know a lot about rock. You have to know a lot about the band. You have to know that the background of this album is that one of their key founding members started getting into drugs, and he had a psychotic episode that he never really recovered from. And this is important information because when you come back and you start reviewing the album, what you see is that this is an album of lament, that they are mourning the loss of one of their friends who was a member of the band and who basically just walked into the mist and never really came back. According to the band, this member shows up again, but by that point, Pink Floyd is known all over the world. He shows up at the studio. It's a very awkward interaction, and then he just kind of walks out on the street, and then they never see him again. And that's where the album comes from, is that weird experience of having a friend, growing up, seeing them make decisions in their life that maybe you don't agree with, but then ultimately they succumb to their own issues, to their own psychological and emotional issues, so that the person that you knew doesn't really exist anymore. So the title of the album is Wish You Were Here, and it becomes pretty clear that they're writing the album for their friend. Now, to unpack all of this and put this in your review is a very different experience than just coming at the album and saying, "Ooh, that's weird, I don't understand that." You have to move past that superficial level, and you have to start doing the homework of your review. So other things that work for students when they review, and I see that Miss Lawrence had assigned a film that she wanted you to watch last week for week 2, but that was a copyrighted film, and so the copyright police came in and basically took that link down. So in the absence of that, what I'm going to do is I want to start with something that works for you. I want you to review either a TV show or a movie that you've seen recently. So I want it to be something that's fresh on your mind. And if it's not, if you, for whatever reason, have not seen something recently, you haven't seen a movie or a TV show recently, your homework for this week is to go watch something, to have a movie or have an album or have a TV show on your mind. And it will need to be something that you are already familiar with. So if you like horror movies, then you should probably go watch a horror movie. If you like a particular TV show, then watch the next episode of your TV show. And what you're going to do here is you're going to understand the episode in relationship to the larger container that it can be found in. So an episode in relationship to the overall show. A movie in relationship to the genre. So if you're watching, for example, a horror movie, what are the staples of the horror genre that you can review the movie in relationship to? It's not enough to just come to the movie and say, I liked it or I didn't like it. You have to move past that, and you need to tell me what the standard is that you're going to be judging it against. The same is true for a TV show. If you're going to look at an episode of a TV show, how will you judge it? Well, you have to judge it in relationship to the other episodes, right? If you're seeing some kind of character growth or development or personal issue that they're dealing with, it has to be in light of other times that you've seen that character on this show, how they've been portrayed, how they have interacted with challenges or sources of joy. Are they slowly losing competence in some way? You will only know this in relationship to the character as they have been presented in other episodes, okay? The same is true if you pick a movie inside of a certain genre. If you're going to talk about a romantic movie, perhaps instead of a horror movie, and you're going to talk about a romantic movie, let's say a Hallmark movie, how are we going to review the movie? Well, we're going to have to understand the movie in relationship to other Hallmark movies or other romantic movies. What works? What doesn't work? And why? So in all of this, what you're hearing is that there is a particular standard by which you will be reviewing, and you need to be cognizant of that. And what you'll see on the outlines, plural, because there are two different skeletons, two different outlines here for you to look at, on page 42, is that you need to have some kind of mastery of your subject by which you can judge against. And you need to have an ideal or a standard in mind by which you can review and judge this text, whether it be a movie or a TV show or an album. You need to be able to understand it in relationship to either the genre, other work by the author, other episodes, and what is that ideal? What is that standard that you're going to be reviewing this piece against? If you are talking about a romantic movie, it's not enough to just say, I liked it or I didn't like it. What you have to say is, I liked how it did this with the genre, how it did something new, or how it did something that was anticipated, because it's true in every horror movie. I liked how they used sound to evoke emotions. I liked how they did this, this, and this. In all of this, though, as I would have said in previous lectures, and I think that I've said this across other videos that I've posted, and I will certainly be saying it as we continue forward with this class, is that you need to be able to strip the I statements out of your essay. I think, I feel, I believe, I liked, I didn't like, that's got to go. Because that's a very subjective thing, and we need to move towards something that is objective, that can be measured. With the review, your challenge here is that you're going to measure a thing, whether that be a movie or a TV show or an album, against that standard. So, what do you have to do? You have to name what the standard is. Do we have that outlined in both of the outlines? Yes, because we have a description or summary of the subject. So this is where you're going to give us that information about the genre as a whole, about the TV show as a whole, about the artist as a whole, their collection of work, how we will be reviewing them, and how we will be assessing their work. Because this is more than just an opinion piece, it's a review. You are reviewing the thing in relationship to the standard that you are setting out. So, recap. First thing you're going to have to do with this assignment is you're going to have to pick a subject that you want to negotiate with, whether that be a TV show or a movie. Whatever it is, whatever you're reviewing, it works for me. If you want to review a shoe, that's great. It works. It's totally fine. If you want to review this pair of glasses, if you want to review me as an instructor, all of these things will work for you. What you have to do is you have to be able to name what the measurement is that you're going to be judging that thing against. Does it work or does it not work based on the overall standards that you're setting down? And you need to set that down early, and you need to be able to come back to it throughout your review. Okay? So, for example, if you're talking about that movie and you're saying a good romantic movie will have good acting, it will have good music that's contemporary music, and it will be happy. So what happens if you have a movie that has good acting and it has good music, but the two characters don't end up happy? Well, you have two of the three, so it works on those two areas, but it doesn't work on the third. And that's okay. You have to be able to name what the things are. You're not looking that they will ultimately meet or exceed your expectations. You're just having to be honest in your review and be able to name what those things are. And then once you've named them all, this leads you to your conclusion where you can make a summary statement about it. Does the whole thing work, or does it fail to work based on how many of those criteria were met? So, needs to have good acting, needs to have good music, needs to have people who are happy in the end. we have good acting, we have good music, they don't wind up together and they don't end up happy. Does the movie still work? Well, that's up to you. You have to be able to decide that, but you have to remove the I statements from the equation. You have to be able to review the thing based on the genre and based on itself, not based on your opinion. If your opinion is in the essay, it's just going to be cut out. I say this to all of my classes. If you make I statements, I stop reading right there. You've automatically failed. The first time that I see an I statement in the essay, you automatically fail right there. Period. I know that seems really harsh. I know that seems really aggressive, but one of the challenges of this class is to move you past just putting forward your opinions and moving you to a place where you can rely on solid argumentation and quality research. And that's what you're going to do with this assignment. And that's what you're really going to do with all the essays in this class, is that you're going to be putting forward an argument of some kind, some claims. I will be looking at your logic and your argumentation. And I'm also looking at, do you have quality research? Do you have good sources? Are you able to use those sources well? So that's what you're doing with this first essay. We'll talk about this more when we meet in class, because it's going into week 3. We will be meeting this week, and I'll be answering any questions that you have. But I need you to know right now that what we're aiming for is we're aiming for a discussion of the assignment on Monday, and we will be moving towards a rough draft by Wednesday. It doesn't have to be complete, but it does need to be a rough draft that you can bring to class, that you can show to other people inside the class. Now, how's that going to work for us if half of us are in the classroom on Monday and half of us are in the classroom on Wednesday? Well, we're going to solve that real quick. We're going to create a forum where you're going to place your essay on the forum, and then each one of you are going to peer review or look at 2 other essays in the class. And you're going to make comments, you're going to make notes, you're really going to go to town, and you're going to judge this work. So you will be practicing reviews right away by reviewing someone else's review. How are you going to judge the work? Well, you already know, because you already have the tool set in your head. You're going to be judging the essay based on the basic mechanics of writing, so spelling, grammar, punctuation, logic, argument. Are they able to have flow? Do they have a good voice? Do they have quality research? Are they able to make a compelling case? Is it interesting? All of these things are going to come into play. You may not be explicit with them in your head, but ultimately that's what you're going to be doing with this assignment, is you're going to be reviewing someone else's review. You're going to say what works and what doesn't work. And this task is not meant to tear you down. This is not an exercise in being a bully to someone else. This is an exercise in getting you to see what works and what doesn't work in someone else's paper, so that you can walk away, you can reflect on it, and you can build on your own writing style. And you can help other people. It reaffirms the things that you're learning about essay writing, about the nature of the assignment. Let's say that they have a review, and their entire review does not have any pieces of research, but it says, I think, I feel, I believe, basically in every paragraph. Well, how are you going to make notes on this paper? Well, you know right away that this is not something that will be allowed for this assignment. So you're going to tell this person in the sidebars there, hey, you really got to get rid of that. Mr. Frederick is really serious about that. The first time he reads an I statement in the essay, he will stop reading and automatically fail it. You really need to change this. So you're going to write all this in the margins. You're going to write this on the notes, and you're going to hand it back to the author. So you've put forward an essay. You've looked at 2 other essays. You've made comments on them. And now that you have your essay has 2 comments, you're going to walk away. You're going to look at your work, and you're going to take those notes into consideration. You do not have to necessarily listen or obey or follow the directives of your classmates. What you do need to do is you need to show that you were able to reflect on them critically and to grow from them. This is not an exercise in tearing one another down. This is an exercise in building one another up, in saying, hey, here's what works. Here's how you can make an ideal essay. And if you're able to do that, if you're able to make comments that are helpful and constructive, then that's great. That's the nature of the task. That's what you're doing this week, is you're putting forward a rough draft, you're commenting on at least 2 other papers, and then you're walking away and you're going to polish up your rough draft. You're going to complete your draft based on those comments that are shared from your classmates. Okay? So we'll talk about this more in class this week, but I want to kind of get the ball rolling now before we even start week 3 so that you understand what's coming down the pipeline this week. Okay? All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye.